Hey guys, it's Nathan from the Kentucky Cycling YouTube channel. Welcome to the next Zoom interview in the Kentucky Cycling Connection series. I'm happy to introduce my guest today, who is the president of the Kentucky Mountain Bike Association, or KyMBA Lincoln Trails chapter, who is Eric Schweighauser. Eric, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I look forward to this.
Great. So before we dive into questions about KyMBA Lincoln Trails, why don't we start by having you tell us just a little bit about yourself, including how you got into cycling?
I've really always been into cycling. Well, I was kind of a late bloomer into getting on a bike. I think I was 9 or 10 before I started riding a bike. I just had that fear. But once I got comfortable on a bike, I was just hooked. And as far as mountain biking, I just love the sport. My first actual mountain bike was a Bridgestone MB4 I bought at a bike shop in Maine, where I'm originally from. I love it. And then I joined the Army, straight out of high school. And so, throughout my Army career, just different places, I've been in and out of the sport. Coming back from my last deployment in Afghanistan, I really wanted to get back into it. I was heading towards retirement. I really wanted to get back into it. I rebought a new mountain bike and just kind of ingrain myself into the sport.
So what is it that appeals to you more about mountain biking over other forms of cycling?
I love being outdoors in the woods, just one with nature, and then the terrain. It's always different. Wherever you go, the variation and what you see on the trails changes from one section to the next. So it's just always something new.
Tell us in what part of the state your KyMBA chapter is located and why it's called Lincoln Trails.
Really, it's the Lincoln Trails District, Hardin County, Meade County, Grayson County. Our area, we know it's the Lincoln Trails District. We just kind of adopted that. As you see in our logo, we have Abe Lincoln on a mountain bike. So, and we even have an Abe top hat that we take to our different events. We take pride in that, and the fact that Abe Lincoln was a great guy, and he grew up in this area. So we just kind of blend it all together and make it part of who we are. So I met Vince. I run a safety program for the Army at the time. I was doing a safety stand-on day for the troops. One of the topics I wanted to do was bike safety. And so I talked to Vince at the shop, and we started talking. We just had so many different interests that we liked, and how much we loved the sport. And then I started attending some of the meetings in Louisville with KyMBA Louisville. And then I approached him on how we could get trails built in Brandenburg, where I currently live. So we got together and we started talking about it. And then shortly after that, we formed our club now, KyMBA Lincoln Trails. We started, I think, mid-2015, and we really wanted to get people on bikes and just have a good time. You think about it, Brandenburg, Radcliffe, Elizabethtown, Fort Knox area. We work to try to include Fort Knox in what we do. We know there's a lot of soldiers that like mountain biking, and we try to include them in what we do. Get our organization ingrained in some of Fort Knox. We've tried to get trails built on Fort Knox, but it's a work in progress. A lot of red tape to get through there.
Well, if it's okay with you, I'd like to share my screen and bring up the KyMBA Lincoln Trails website, since I think it's going to help kick off our conversation. If it's okay.
Sure.
Okay, so right here on the homepage, we're given an overview of the organization. So if I scroll down a little bit, and we've got 3 subjects entitled Our Team, Our History, and Our Mission. You've talked a little bit about the history, but could you speak to those 3 points?
So our team, we have a kind of a small core of folks that when we began that have stayed with us. In that picture you see with the orange shirts, that's the Wests, Dave and Barb West, and they've been so great in helping the club itself and promoting who we are, but also trail building. So every time there's a trail project, they're out there, and they really support what we're going. Anyway, our team, like I said, we have a small core that's really passionate about this club. Even if they've moved to a different part of the States, they still are interactive with what we do. And it's kind of our motto is great friends, great trails, and great rides. As you see on our t-shirt, that's what it's all about. It's just that community of people, focused on a goal to get people out on bikes and just enjoy, some good times. And then our mission, mountain bikers, is kind of an individual sport, but there's a community around it. And it really helps to build a community. And the same with trails. So trails, connect places. You get two different points on a map, and you want to get that, you need a trail. So, we just want to develop these trails and, get people outside and get people enjoying nature. And, trails is a good segue to do that. And then at the same time, getting people out there to build the trails and help work on those trails. It's just adding to that community, adding to, the worth of doing something and seeing the progress as you build it.
I'm going to jump around here just a little bit. So again, like on the About Us page, we've got 3 more themes here. So you've talked some about trail stewardship, and you've also mentioned, community. What kind of education things do you guys do?
So we like to educate folks on the sport, from the basics of what's important as far as what type of bike is needed for getting out on the trails, and how to use your bike and how to set your bike up, to skills, and then educate folks on trail design and how there's a standard. And when we build the trails, it's done with a purpose, that the trails are sustainable and they're going to last and they're easily maintained, and they don't cause any significant damage to nature. We keep things like erosion in mind and the way the water is going to go. We want the trail to be part of the landscape and folks just to see that. So we have just been awarded a grant through the Kentucky Bike and Bikeway Commission, the Paula and I grant. With this grant, we are going to certify some folks within the club, mountain bike skills certification course. So through this course, they'll be taught a series of skills for the bike, on the bike, and then also, bike maintenance, and then be able to teach that course, and they'll receive the certification, which is good. I think 2 to 4 years. We're also with that grant, we're going to buy a small fleet of kind of entry-level mountain bikes, so we can take this program and bring it to folks who have never experienced mountain biking and give them a taste of what it is. One of our goals is just to, build a community of mountain bikers. And I think if we can bring it to people that have never seen it, never tasted it, and they get on it and they say, this is something that I can do, and I enjoy this, and then it's just going to grow the sport. More mountain bikers means more trails, and then it's just better for everybody.
And in terms of community, there's a lot of intangibles here. There are some images that people get of mountain bikers as maybe being like, people who are just looking to shred it and are real super elite and going at it all the time. Your club, at least the people I've met, are very approachable. I consider myself very much an average Joe who's out there turning pedals. And my impression, and maybe I'm wrong, you tell me if I'm wrong, but a lot of folks in your club probably meet that description as well. And so I think for people who are new to the sport in your area, they probably find a very welcoming community there with KyMBA Lincoln Trails.
That's quite true. And I think that's one of the things that we really take pride in, the fact that, we bring anybody in. And when we do a skills clinic, it's very basic mountain bike skills to really get the new folks in. And really that's a priority, because even in Kentucky, if you look at the trail systems, there's not a whole lot of trail systems where there's a design for those new riders. Some of these trail systems are designed, again, for that shredding, there's jumps built in, a lot of features and a lot of rock, and which is good and great, and we like it. But you also got to keep in mind that new guy, the new person, the new rider, is just starting out and is not very comfortable on their bike yet. They have goals to get better, but there's no progression built into the trail systems. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do. Now, as far as going back to, approachable and everyday Joes, we've had folks come in, the run-of-the-mill big box store bike, and they come to a clinic, and, we start teaching, we talk about the sport, who we are, and get into some, basic skills. And you see these folks, they progress and they latch onto the sport, and they latch onto the community and doing things, the trail building. Well, we've had some individuals that come in and it changes their life, their health, their weight, and stuff like that. So, they come in with different goals as far as getting into the sport. And, they see those folks attain those goals and how it changes them. It's rewarding. It's really good.
Good deal. So before we leave this subject community, tell me, you mentioned a couple of the movers and shakers we saw in a picture there. Tell me a little bit more about some of the movers and shakers in your club.
One individual in particular, his job calls him to move away, but he was one of the founders of the club when we started in 2015. His name was Jay Maselli. He was a full-bird colonel in the Army. He was an armor officer, and his wife just happened to be going through a master's program on nonprofits, and they use their course project to help build our strategic plan. It's a really impressive document, and the Masellis, it's an example of folks that have started with the club, and they, even though they've moved on and they're many miles away, they still maintain contact. They still like what we do. They still talk to us, and they post images of where they're riding in our club T-shirts, throughout the different parts of the nation. Whether it's Texas or Washington. You see this guy, he's rocking his big orange KyMBA Lincoln Trails T-shirt as he's riding. So some other folks, we have Jay Monot. He runs our membership program. Shannon. I mean, there's so many folks that come in and out of our club that latch on, and even if they're only there for a short time, everybody has something that they can add to the club. Even some of the local bike shops, Outdoor Ventures in Radcliffe, have been very supportive. Middletown Cycling in Louisville, they've been very supportive as well.
Good deal. So before the interview, you mentioned that the site is sort of in its early phases here, and,
yes.
and it doesn't yet include info about each of the trails that KyMBA Lincoln Trails maintains. So the natural question is, what are the trails? So talk to me about the trails that KyMBA Lincoln Trails maintains.
Two of our big trails is Saunders Springs, which is in Radcliffe, Kentucky, right outside of Fort Knox. That piece of property actually belonged to Fort Knox and was leased to Radcliffe, I think in 2011, 2012. And there's progression in that trail system. So the basic perimeter trail is rideable for any skill level, and it's where we kind of bring folks to introduce them to the sport. But Vince has really designed it and had other portions of the trail with more advanced features. It's a great trail system. And another trail system is Buffalo Lake. Big shout out to David Haynes. He's also one of our big club members that has done a lot, and he's actually been the kind of the figurehead for leading and getting a NICA league established in Kentucky. So Dave Haynes, he's been one that's championed the Buffalo Lake trail system, and I believe they're close to eight or 9 miles out there. I think you did a video on Buffalo Lake.
So the two trail systems you've mentioned are two that I've been fortunate enough to do what I call a Trail Dome tour with. So with both. Mm-hmm. Vince, you've mentioned Vince by name a couple of times, Vince Carman. For those who are active in the cycling community in Kentucky, Vince is well known to a lot of folks throughout Kentucky.
You're right. So going back to your last question, I get focused on things, but the folks that have really been key in our club, Vince Carman is the other one. He was the previous club president, and we just kind of flip roles just to keep the club going, So someone's not in the seat too long, but he was pivotal in developing the club. But he's worked all over the state as far as mountain bike advocacy.
I mean, I'll say Saunders Springs, for those who haven't been, I think is a very special place. There's a lot of natural beauty, just the way that the sort of the park is laid out, and then the way that the trails have been designed. There are not just a lot of cool trails, but they're more than almost any other place I can think of. There are a lot of really cool sort of man-made features that are built into the trail. That a lot of sessioning, I imagine, that goes on at Saunders Springs around these features. Really cool stuff.
Woodhenge.
Yeah.
I don't know if have you tried Woodhenge?
I did not. I filmed a buddy trying it. I did do Elevator, which was really cool.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely followed Vince's guidance as I was, approaching, how to do that. I was a little nervous, but it was a lot of fun. And then Buffalo Lake is a very special place. I think that's grown a lot. I do want to ask you. So I know at their trailhead, there's another organization called Green Space, and so what's the relationship between KyMBA Lincoln Trails and Green Space?
But Green Space is another organization that promotes building trails, really multi-use kind of community trails in Hardin County. They're one of their bigger trail systems is Freeman Lake, kind of developing a network of trails in and around Elizabethtown. They've helped get Elizabethtown the designation of being a trails town.
So there must be some level of partnership there, because there are folks from KyMBA Lincoln Trails who work on that system, but then Green Space folks, so maybe people wear both hats, so to speak, who work on that particular trail system.
And really, Dave Haynes, he's really ingrained with Green Space and does a lot of work with them. But it's nice having the champions. I'm here in Brandenburg, Vince is in Radcliffe. And you have like David Haynes, he's in Elizabethtown. Those figureheads still for the club, and also working with other local organizations to build and maintain trails and get and just kind of grow the sport and stay nested with the other stakeholders.
So you mentioned Saunders Springs, Buffalo Lake. What are the other trails?
In Brandenburg, in the Meade-Olin Park, we had the bike park built. We approached the community early winter of 2019 about what a bike park is. So the Meade-Olin Park, and there's baseball fields there. There's soccer fields. There's a frisbee golf course. It's a beautiful park. Gazebos, different picnic areas. But there used to at one time be a pool at the park, and many years ago it was taken out and filled in. So you just had this flat spot. So we approached the town about having a skills park built there. And we talked to the Chamber of Commerce, and we sat in on a luncheon and we gave a presentation, and they bought off on it. So they invested $35,000 into that bike park. We had a professional builder come in, and he did a fantastic job. We had the grand opening last summer, and the park it's great. It gets quite a lot of use, and it's neat. Every once in a while, I'll go out there and check on it. You'll see a dad out there with his little kids on his BMX bikes, just shredding it up on the bike park. So it's great. One of our more newer projects is the expansion of Buttermilk Falls and building a mountain bike specific trail there. We started that project early winter of 2017. We built just under 2 miles of trail, and then we had to stop. The big steel company, Nucor, came in and bought all the property. The Buttermilk Falls walking trail was on, and all that land surrounding it. So they bought all that property. The county didn't know what Nucor was going to do with the property once they've owned it. So we stopped building, and then it was last year that Nucor leased all that property back to the county. The property that the walking trail is on, there's a gravel trail, there's a national service trail, and then our trail. The property that's on, they leased it back to the county for $5. So the trail system is back with the county, and now we're able to go back in there and start working on that trail system again. So one of the good things about that turnout is some of the property we were trying to have access to prior to Nucor rolling in was private property, and we couldn't build on it. But now, since Nucor has bought all that property and now leased it back, that private property was included in that purchase. So now we'll have access to that portion. That should add another. I'm hoping about 4 miles. So my goal is to get about 7 miles total out of the whole system.
Good deal. So how many miles of trail is open out there currently?
It's still just under 2. Now You can ride the gravel trail and the national surface trail and still get on the mountain bike trail, and you'll get about 6 or 7 miles total. You can access the trailhead down at the Brandenburg Riverfront.
Is that kind of the list of trails in a nutshell, or are there others?
Well, yes, and then if we adopt Fort Duffield, and that'll be one of our trail systems that we'll maintain.
So talk to me about Fort Duffield. So I know it's historically a cool place with some cool downhill, but maybe hasn't gotten as much attention from a maintenance standpoint recently, or?
Correct. So yeah, and I haven't been out there in a while. I've done some trail building, some maintenance out there a couple of years ago, but it's not one of my favorite places to go. I mean, I've been there, and it used to be a great spot, but a lot of the single track trails, which I enjoy more because I'm not really the jumping type. They've really overgrown, and we've just had our focus on other places. But Fort Duffield is right next to West Point, and that little town. If you ever driven through 31W, West Point is hurting. It's got 2 gas stations and no other ways of pulling people in, any source of of commerce for their community. It's just one of those things. We know that mountain biking and developing a trail system attracts people. When people come to the trails, they also have to use the businesses. So West Point needs help, and there's a lot of initiatives to bring more attraction to West Point. So with that being said, even if we take it over, if we don't, but if we partner with KyMBA Louisville and different organizations and beef up the Fort Duffield trail system, it's gonna help that town. It's a great place to mountain bike. It could be even better, and you can build it and add features where everybody can have an enjoyment on the trail system. We're still trying to reach out with KyMBA Louisville and maybe develop some joint efforts to work on that trail system together.
Good deal. Eric, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here and ask you to help point me to some online resources where they exist surrounding some of these trails for folks who haven't ridden there. You guys sitting on some gems, and we want to make sure that people know how to find them, what the best resources are. So starting with Saunders Springs, I mean, would you say, I think their Saunders is actually both on both Trail Forks and like MTBProject. Are there other resources or what would you say is the best resource?
It's listed on Single Track. It hasn't been updated. So MTBProject and Trail Forks is probably the most updated resource to see the trail.
Do you know if one is more up to date than the other?
Trail Forks would be.
Okay, well, let's go to Trail Forks. Yeah. So I would encourage folks to check out the Trail Gnome Tour video that I did with Vince. But talk to me about the different trails here. So I think you mentioned there's like a perimeter trail.
Correct. If you look at where the red dot is, and you go up, you get another green dot right there. So that's kind of where
like the parking area. Yeah,
that's the parking area. So coming down,
coming off this main
right. So it says Saunders Springs. That's your access route. Right there is your parking area. So right there, that coming down from the parking, you get the skills area, and the first portion of that blue trail is really just an access road that leads into the park area.
Yeah.
And so where this next red dot is where you can pick up the perimeter trail. Now you can go left or right, and it's going to bring you back to that same spot. And the perimeter trail, it's just over 6 miles if you do the whole perimeter trail. Now, because of the nature of the trail, it's very tight. It's kind of packed in. The tree canopies, especially in the summertime, your GPS is not going to register 6 miles. It may show you that you've only done 3 miles, but trust me, you've done 6 miles if you just rode the perimeter trail. So moving down this first green loop off of the perimeter trail, that's Bambi Trail. That's a 1 mile trail, and it's really a beginner focused trail system. Now, the name Bambi didn't come necessarily from Bambi, the Disney character. We had a Mr. Bambini. He volunteered at Saunders Springs for many years. We named the trail system after him. But I mean, you will see many young deer wandering around that trail system. So I mean, Bambi just kind of fits. You pick up Bambi right off of the perimeter trail, and it's 1 mile loop, and it'll bring you right back to the perimeter trail, and then you can continue on the perimeter trail. And if you the next offshoot is
probably
Wild Goose. So that is a one direction mountain bike only trail system. You jump on there off of the perimeter trail, and it's got some features, got some drops and some bank turns, and it allows you to just really go wild goose, on your bike and not worry about other pedestrians on the trail system. And Wild Goose, that trail was named after a gentleman. He was an inmate that would do work with Mr. Bambini. So Mr. Bambini would get inmate labor from the community or the county jail, bring them out to work on the trail system. And this guy enjoyed it so much that after he got out and served his time, he continued to volunteer and work on the trails. Now, he didn't ride, but if you get on the trail system, you'll see these nice cedar benches every couple miles. And he would do the chainsaw work to build these benches. Many of the trail portions were built with Eagle Scouts. And as they were doing their Eagle Scout project, part of their project, they would get a bench to put on the trail. So the next black portion is Star Cluster.
This whole area, right?
Right, that whole area.
Multiple trails off of this little area.
Mm-hmm. How you see it right now, you get the red dot that comes off of the perimeter trail. So you pick up Star Cluster off of the perimeter trail and you ride up what's called Misery. So Fort Knox used to be a basic training installation. And for many years, many soldiers would go through Fort Knox, but there was three hills on Fort Knox that are famous. One's called Misery, one's called Agony, and one's called Heartbreak. And if you've ever did a ruck march on Fort Knox, you are familiar with those hills because they are painful. So we've named some of the trail systems and some of the portions of the trail after things on Fort Knox. And so the climb up Star Cluster is called Misery. And when you get to the top of Misery, you have two choices. You have a really kind of a fast shooting, what we call Sabo, which is named after like a Sabo tank round, which is it's a really fast round, but it's kind of straight. There's some drops built in, and then towards the bottom there's another jump line built in as well. And then the other one is a little more twisty and turny. That's Hellfire, and that twists and turns is bank turns, is kind of rollers. They're both super fun, and that's called Hellfire, which is kind of named after a Hellfire missile. Kind of twists and turns as it seeks out its target. So that's Star Cluster. And on Star Cluster, you'll find Elevator, which is, I think it's about 240 feet. It's a wooden feature. And it's fun. It's challenging. If it's a little moist, it makes it even more fun, but
I use the word fun loosely there.
right. No, you will believe it will be loosely because your tires will be sliding all over the place. Yeah. But off of the perimeter trail, there's a couple of features built in. One's called Woodhenge. Towards the beginning of our discussion, we mentioned the West, Dave West and Barb West. So Dave, he likes building challenging features, and he does a good job at it. So Woodhenge is a figure 8 of skinnies. So essentially you come on the figure 8, and the first loop on the figure 8, the logs are about 18 inches in diameter. So it's a good tread pattern. The second loop, they're quite a bit more narrow, and it's hard to keep your back tire on the second loop. I've done the first loop. I can't get the second loop, but with practice, maybe I'll get it. And then there's another section, we call it Stickman, off of the perimeter trail. And it's really conjunction. So it's a series of the rock gardens, skinnies. Skinnies are butted up against this large tree trunk. So you come up a skinny and you can try to turn and go down the next one to get back on a trail. So you can kind of add loops to your ride. So so that's Saunders Springs. It's a fun trail.
So I would encourage folks to check out the Trail Gnome Tour with David Haynes, who of course is the expert here. But one thing that's cool about this particular trail system is that you can come in right off the Bluegrass Parkway comes down here to E-Town, and you've got 65, so either you're coming maybe from towards Lexington, or you're coming south from Louisville. You can access this trail system right off the interstate. There's actually a parking area over here on the north side, or you can get into downtown and you can access this Haycraft. There's actually like I can't remember, it's called Wintergreen or something like this, coming out of a parking lot done by the Justice Center.
Correct. And they do a Thursday night ride. So throughout the winter, they were doing a winter ride. And as we have more daylight throughout the day, they'll be doing Thursday evening rides too. But they start at Haycraft. And they They ride the trail, they come back.
Yeah, it's really cool because this is really like their city center. And so you can kind of get out here, be in the woods. This whole Pine Loop Trail is like it sounds. I mean, you are in the thick of all these pine trees, and then you've got sort of the main loop, down here around Buffalo Lake. So really cool trail system, definitely worth checking out. So what about some of these other resources? Are there any like around, like say Buttermilk Falls?
If you Google Earth Brandenburg, you can probably do Buttermilk Falls.
Is Buttermilk Falls, Kentucky? Is that a place, or Buttermilk Falls
so,
Road?
No, that's correct. So if you click on that map and if you do like the satellite shot.
This is, I guess, the chemical plant over here. Let's zoom out a little bit more. So is this Brandenburg over here?
Yeah, that's Brandenburg. And you can see this kind of like faint loop that goes kind of from the riverfront. Go to the left.
Okay.
Okay, so there you go.
Buttermilk Falls Trailhead. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Right.
All right, so really right into downtown. So
the Buttermilk Falls, the whole trail, if you go from one end to the other and back, you're gonna get about 4 miles. And there's Jailhouse Pizzas, the old county jailhouse. There's now a pizza shop.
Oh, right here. Okay.
Yes, and you can enjoy your pizza in a wrought iron jail cell, and then there's a coffee shop there. So Brandenburg is really growing. This new steel mill it's adding a lot to the community. I mean, it's going to be a huge project, but it's going to help the community grow as far as fiscally and just it's going to make it a great place. But anyway, so you see where the Buttermilk Falls Trailhead is.
Yep.
That is a paved walking trail that goes down.
Okay.
And it goes down a loop.
Okay. Like
and then what it does
here?
is about there, maybe a little further down, it stops. And that's where kind of the new steel mill project land is. But it goes into the woods, and there's a gravel trail and a mulch trail that goes along. So you can keep going to the right. You can't really see the trail through here, but you used to be able to take the paved trail all the way down to the other parking lot. But right above your mouse, that's kind of the walking gravel trail.
Okay.
So if you look at this bare area right on the Mormon Road, that's the Meade County burn pile. That's where kind of they pull in a lot of trees and shrubs and stuff like that, just for different projects. And they put it there and they turn it into mulch, or they burn it. But anyway, that's kind of where we started our trail system. So if you look at the way the map is, you got Mormon Road, and then you got the light trail that goes kind of parallel along at the edge of the woods. So our mountain bike trail is closer to the Mormon Road.
Nobody's developed a map or anything in this area yet.
No. So there's 2 places you can park. You can park at the town. If you zoom back out a little bit,
yeah.
And towards the right, there's another. Go back towards the right. Right where it says Olin Road.
Yeah.
There's another parking lot right there.
This.
And you can see the trail that goes through the field, kind of borders the road. That's a gravel trail.
Okay.
And right there in that corner, that first turn, kind of about right there is where we have our trail branches off.
Okay. So not too far after the tree line begins on the left, you'll see a sign.
And so there's a kind of a junction there. So there's a mulch trail, which it's about 5 foot wide, a walking trail. It junctions right there, that corner as well. But then our mountain bike trail kind of goes a little further up, and right now it's a stacked loop, so you can ride it out and come back, and it takes you to what's called Emerald Falls, which is within the whole park system. It's going to be very challenging. The trail, just the nature of the terrain, it's very hilly, some punchy climbs, and just by the nature of the terrain, it's going to be a challenging trail system, but it's going to be fun. I'm eager to get it finished. You might be able to see the Meade-Olin bike park.
Brandenburg's downtown's over in here. So if you come in off of Broadway, go to Mormon Road and into the park, sort of on the north end of the park is
correct. And when you get into the park, there's signs that say where the bike park is, and you can only entrance the park through one section, and that's off of the Mormon Road. The park is kind of gated, but so there's a wooden feature, there's a jump line, there's a pump track, and there's a little kids area as well.
Cool. So let me pop back over here to your website. If I go back to the homepage, you've actually got a link that goes out to if somebody were interested in joining KyMBA Lincoln Trails. So talk to me, kind of make a pitch around why folks should get involved and consider joining KyMBA.
We're a small club. Right now we have about 40 paid members, and with that membership, it goes straight back towards events, trail building, education, and like I said, we're small, but we're ambitious. We like to get out and talk mountain biking and get projects built. There's so many reasons why it's important to support your local mountain bike club. Really, if you want trails, want places to ride, you got to start somewhere. And becoming a paid member, really gives us the ability to do more.
I mean, I've talked with a couple other presidents of mountain bike clubs, and associations in the state. And, at the heart of all this is membership. So, I would encourage folks who maybe utilize these trail systems, even if you don't get out and dig in the dirt, which, not all of us do. There are lots of ways to be able to contribute to this work. And I think at the basis of it all is this paid membership. There's a tremendous number of volunteer hours that go into maintaining these trails, but it also takes money and resources, to be able to do these things. So, right. Whether it's fueling, powering, tools or chainsaws or weed eaters, I mean, the gas and all this kind of stuff, it all takes resources in addition to those volunteer hours. So I would look at it, as a monetary contribution towards maintaining the trails, if nothing else.
I mean, that's well said. And really the monetary, the money behind it, your average trail tool costs about between $60 to $70. We use what's called a Rogo and McLeod, so they're expensive, and we have to have enough to support trail projects. When volunteers come out, we try to feed them. So this stuff costs money. The average cost per mile to build a trail for a professional is between $15,000 and $20,000 per mile to build 1 mile of trail, and that's using a machine. So you look at a trail system like Saunders Springs, and there's 9 miles of trail system that's been built by volunteers. Mm-hmm. And it's quite an achievement. It's just their ambition and what they value, and you can see the result of it. There's a couple of our members that they donated machine time. They have machines, and so out of their own pocket, they're bringing their machines out to the trail system, and they're helping us build these trail systems. I mean, and that's what it's about. In order to mountain bike, you have to have trails. And if we want more places to ride and cooler places to ride, and then, we have to be able to support it. And like you said, if you can't get out there to work on a trail system, you can support us fiscally too. So, as we grow programs like NICA and getting the younger folks excited about mountain biking, it's creating another segue to build the sport. And we want them to have places to ride too. And our goal is when we build a trail system that our grandkids will be able to use it someday. So
that's great. And it looks like you've got different membership levels here too. So you can sign up as an individual, a family, a business, or a lifetime. And I bet that if people wanted to give more,
we've had people give us checks, and we get excited about that. In fact, we just got a check. We can't wait to put it to use and teach people about mountain biking. To put it in perspective, say you have a really bad day at work, and we host group rides at the end of the day, a regular work day, usually at Saunders Springs. People show up at the trail, and sometimes you hear doors slam, and they've had a bad day at work, but they get out on the trail, and that goes away. Those stresses, those angers, those issues, they go away, and they relax, and they're and they just feel better about it, and smiles come back. And it's just, it's so good to see that happen. And we've had one member, this guy, he lost over 80 pounds in the time that he started with us, and it's been mountain biking, and then it's a lifestyle change. And we just try to encourage people. And like I said, mountain biking is for everybody. We don't turn anybody away. So yeah, we're quite passionate about it.
That's great. Well, in terms of contacting you guys, so I know you've got a contact form here out on the site, and then you got a pretty active Facebook group. So you want to talk something about that?
Our Facebook page is pretty much our main communication tool. We've tried to get better, but we're all pretty busy. It's just an easy way of getting out there. So this big blue button is another way. It's a link to if you want to join our club. So you can click on that and it'll take you straight to the link to sign up and become a paid member. But we post events. We have a meeting coming up. We post about different projects. We were supposed to go. If you actually scroll back down to that picture of the little kid on the bike. So right there, I posted that the other day. It's never the bike, it's the ride. So that's kind of how I feel about biking. And here's this youngster. He's built this bike somehow, and it's made out of bamboo. There's no pedals, but you look at him. He's focused on what he's doing, and he's enjoying life right there. And it's just about getting out on the trail and having a good time.
Is there anything that I haven't already asked you about that you'd like to share with the Kentucky cycling audience?
Like I say, our t-shirt says it all: great friends, great trails, great rides. That's what we're about. Really, if you've been on the fence about coming out to an event that we host, just do it. Come out, support one of the trail projects. Come see who we are. We have a meeting coming up on the 7th. It's going to be held at the Meade County Fairgrounds in Brandenburg. We're going to discuss some of our initiatives and our plans going forward. We're going to talk about the grant that we just got. This Paul and I grant, we were awarded just under $14,000 to build this bike education program. Like I said, we have multiple trail projects going on. Even like Saunders Springs, we say it's done, but every time we get out there, it's like, we can add this here and add this. So there's always something going on, and we need folks too. So we need new members to kind of step up. We need different officers. We need somebody to kind of help us with our digital platform and our digital presence. Whether it's Facebook, the web page and stuff like that. We need folks to help us with. We need a secretary. I don't know. We have offices open within the club, and we're eager to get some new folks.
Yeah, but so not just digging in the dirt, but other ways to help as well.
Right. If manual labor and throwing dirt around is not your thing, but you're good, with organization and clerical things, we'll take you too. So like I said, we take anybody. And I think this next year, it's pretty exciting with this, like I said, with this grant and what we plan to do. It's a good time to be a part of KyMBA. So I encourage folks, if you don't know who we are, and come out to a few events, and you'll quickly see that we're not about Strava times. We're about just getting out there and having a good time.
Good deal. Well, Eric, I want to thank you again for being a guest on the Kentucky Cycling Connection series and for taking time to talk to us about the work of KyMBA Lincoln Trails.
Oh, I had the pleasure. That was great. And I appreciate you taking the time to and inviting me to discussion in this platform. I really appreciate it. And what you're doing for Kentucky and really showcasing cycling across the state.
My pleasure.
As always, we hope you found this content useful. If you did, please like the video and consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks.